So there's two words in that song that I'd like to bring forth, and it's this: as me. So the song is God is, and you know, there's a way of looking at it where it feels a little dualistic. God is this, God is that. But the song is really about unification, the understanding that I am one. God is, and the end of every phrase was, as me. And that's the journey we're on, isn't it? Moving from God is to as me. And it is a journey, and I understand that. I get that it's a journey. But when we say as me, the question becomes, who is the me that we're talking about? Who am I? I mean, who am I really? And so I spoke last night in Palm Springs, and the title of my talk was The Gift of the Non-Local, which is what you all saw if you read your e-blast on Friday. That was the title of the talk, but it's not the title of my talk today. It was the title of my talk last night. But by the end of my talk last night, I had a whole different feeling. So I rewrote it for today. And the idea of what I was apparently going to speak about was this idea that there is this universal quantum field of pure love and energy that I am, that is back of me, that is me, as me, and that my whole life seems to have been geared towards that moment when I'd start living as that. Not just understanding that, as you talked about, not just the intellect of it, the knowledge of it, but the actual realization of it, living from that position. What would that do? How would that change things? So the title of my talk today is Flow. Flow. And I did that myself. Lori Savage is like, where did you get that? So, flow. And I'm going to tell you why. So there's a gentleman named Stephen Kotler. Anybody know him? Okay, he's an author. And he wrote a book called The Art of Impossible. The Art of Impossible. And it's all about neuroscience and the psychology of this thing called flow. So it's the psychology of flow, when you are in the flow. How many of you have ever realized when you're like in the flow? We used to say in the zone too, right? I'm in the zone. But that's what they're talking about here, flow. So here's one of the quotes. Flow, an optimized state of consciousness where we feel our best and perform our best. Lisa, were you in the flow many times out on the ice? One hand, two hands. I love that you said two hands.
In 12 years.
Okay, I love that the two of you are sitting together. Were you in the flow when you dove off that diving board at the Olympics? You did win an award.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have? Here's a question. Do you have room in those moments for anything else that's going on? In those pinnacles, there's nothing else going on. Just that dive, just that skate, just that whatever it is for each one of us. But how often are we in the flow so succinctly that we don't allow for the other things to show up? That's what this book was all about. That's what this video that this gentleman that I watched found that when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this is actual science of mind. So, optimized state of consciousness right there. An optimized state of consciousness. What if that optimized state of consciousness is your go-to? What if that optimized state of consciousness is actually the primary way you navigate life? What if you were always in that optimized state of consciousness? Why does it have to be something that we aim at or we have to build towards? It happens now and then, those fleeting moments. What if we were able to live from this optimized state of consciousness where we feel our best and perform our best? And you know what that means? It's getting the relative out of the way of what Emerson calls the divine circuits. And the quote is, get your bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. I mean, Emerson said this hundreds of years ago. Hundreds? Couple hundred. Yeah. They knew this. We've known this. We know this. Get your bloated nothingness out of the way of what wants to come through you. That is an optimized state of consciousness where we feel great, where we're performing at our top, at our peak level. And I don't mean that we have to go win a medal as an ice skater or win a medal as a diver. I don't mean that we have to be an Olympian to make this stuff work. I was sharing last night that Kevin went to Texas and this week, and he said to me, when he left, he said, "Could you please clean the pool while I'm gone?" And I said yes and had no intention of doing it because the pool guy comes on Wednesday, and how would Kevin know? So I just figured, sure, I'll keep the pool clean for you. And then I taught my class Monday night, Quantum Living. And there are now over 80 people who have signed up for the class. And they keep, this morning, someone else signed up for the whole class. I was like, God, this will just keep going. After I finished class on Monday night, hearing what I asked everybody to consider, I had to consider it. And so I went to bed thinking about this idea of living from the quantum realm, not living in the relative world. And I woke up, and before I got out of bed, before I started to think about my chest hurt because I did a chest workout out of nowhere, and I thought I was 20. I thought I'd just go back to lifting heavy weights right away. And my chest hurt, and I went, here's the deal. Am I going to lie here, and feel the pain, or am I going to dissolve into the quantum field where there is no pain? And I did. I laid there, and I went, I just let my whole body absorb into the universe. And then the shades went up. Our shades go up automatically at 7 a.m., so you know what time I got up. And so I'm laying there, and the shades start to go up, and I was like, this is how it works. Now I'm going to be revealed. I was revealed, too. But what was revealed was my 300-year-old oak tree and everything in the backyard and all the leaves that were on the pool that Kevin told me to clean up the day before. And so I was like, I'm going to go wake up the dogs, and I just decided I'm going to live in this field of pure love and energy. And so I let the dogs out of their kennels, and they came out, and they were very calm, and I opened the door to the backyard, went in the backyard, and the tree was singing to me practically. I felt like that Snow White thing where she goes out and all the birds and everything land on her fingers, except, more like Prince Charming doing it. And all of a sudden, I see all these leaves on the pool, and I was like, okay. And then I see the net that Kevin had laid out for me to clean the pool with. And I went and got it, and for half an hour, I skimmed the pool. I cleaned that pool within an inch of its life. One little leaf was left floating in the center, and I just kept pulling it towards me. I was like, not today, leaf. And I just took it out. Why am I telling you this story? Because I moved into an optimized state of consciousness where everything I did made me feel great. And I did it really well, something I don't normally like to do. And I was like, how much of my life is like this? How much of my life do I just live rote and do what I think I have to do, when in fact, I could dissolve into the quantum field and have a whole different experience of it all? So that's what I want you to contemplate today or consider, because that is the quantum worldview. We've talked about this here. There's the Newtonian worldview where everything is out here, what I can see, taste, touch, feel, experience, all the real world, right? And then there's the quantum worldview where I see the world from that state of consciousness, where there is only love, where there is just love only, where I have forgiven everything, where I've gotten all of my relatives and put them on a boat somewhere. Relative facts of life, obviously, not my real relatives, although some of them. Anyway, highest and furthest, right? And where I can remember who I am, which is really what this is all about. You see, when I came up with this love only, forgive everything, remember who you are, I was thinking, remember who you are God. But it hadn't really gelled yet for me. I knew what it meant intellectually. Now, from a quantum understanding of this, I'm understanding what it means physically, emotionally, how to live it day in and day out. And I always say, when you get this, you get the other two done. It works like that. It's like what I said to you two. There's no room in my head for hatred if I am just loving. There's just no room. Why would I contemplate it? Why would I allow there to be room for anything in my mind other than a quantum worldview of pure possibility, infinite possibility? So there's a musical that just opened in North Carolina. It's a musical of Bull Durham, a baseball musical. And because there's only one mind, and it got an amazing review that I read yesterday. And I was online looking at it, and I was watching a video of it, of a little piece of it, and it's so similar to what we're doing with Bells Are Swinging. And I was talking about it to a friend last night, and they said, "So, do you feel really compelled to make sure you get to Broadway first?" And I was like, I don't feel compelled. I don't feel competitive. And I also had this feeling of, this looks great, what they've done. I really hope they have the greatest success possible with this. That's not my old self. My old self would have been so fast to try to push this show forward quicker, knowing there was a competing show. But is there a competing show? Is there any such thing as competition in the mind of God? No. There can't be. And then I can live my life more pleasantly, more creatively, and not comparing myself or being involved with anything else. So William James said this. He said, "The great thing in all education is to get our nervous system to be our ally and not our enemy." In terms of neuroscience, and Eric just said it too, how the body knows what to do. There's that within us that reacts to our mind, to our brain, which our mind uses, and those brain cells, those brain nerves, those things that are emanating from our brain, informs our body, and our body then knows exactly what to do. Exactly what to do. And that's the idea of flow, when you're in the flow. And I put the dancer up here because, not to go back to my West Side Story days, but why not? First day of rehearsal of West Side Story, Jerome Robbins had all of the guys doing these jetés across the stage. And I literally hid. I literally hid behind them all. You had to get through all the jets and all the sharks, and then all the jet girls and all the shark girls. And I still hadn't gone yet. And I'm watching, and I'm like, did anybody really question me on how good a dancer I am? No one did. Jerry, for some reason, Jerome Robbins did not really put me through my paces like he put all of my counterparts through their paces. Mostly because I was up for the role of Tony the whole time, and it wasn't until the last moment when they said, let's give him Riff, because Tony is Riff. They're both the leaders of the Jets. Just one dances, one sings. We'll give him Riff. I did not dance the way those American Ballet Theater boys were jetting across the stage. The great thing in all education is to get our nervous system to be our ally and not our enemy. I only know this now by looking back at it. Something in me in that moment watched while 30 people did that thing across the stage. And in my head, I'm like, I see it, I see it, I see it. Part of me was saying, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. But somewhere along the line, I had to do it. I just went, I see it, I see it. The I can't do it went away. I see it, and then I flew across that stage. Last one. It almost looked like I was being arrogant, like, I'll go last to show you all what it looks like. That's not what was happening. But I did. I just jeted across the stage. Probably the only time Jerome Robbins gave me a compliment and looked at everybody and said, that's what I'm looking for. And there was nothing in my history that would have told you I was going to do that. That's what we're talking about the flow, getting your nervous system, getting your entire belief system out of the way. Because when this gentleman in his book talks about the nervous system, he talks about our brain and the biology of our brain, that our brain is really what's creating. Now, he says brain, but the mind, using the brain, is what is creating the experiences of our lives. So he asked a question in this book, and it's this. Why does the impossible become possible? Let's just think about that question for a minute, Carol. Why does the impossible become the possible? Right, exactly. It's exactly right. I'm glad you whispered it, because I'll tell it in a minute. Why does the impossible become the possible? Well, it has to do with this, the Bannister effect. How many of you have ever heard of the Bannister effect? Great, of course you have, yes. Okay, so for the rest of you, here's what the Bannister effect is. You have to believe something is possible before it can be possible. You have to see it. You have to absolutely believe it in your heart, in your soul, that it's possible before you're capable of doing it. The mind is where it begins. The brain takes that, what the mind knows, the belief you have, and then gives you the experience of what you are equal to with that belief. So doesn't that kind of beg the question, how much of life do we believe? What do we think is possible in our lives? How much of this possibility are we actually willing to take and be and use? The name of the Bannister effect was named after Roger Bannister, a runner. He was the first person to run a sub-4 mile, meaning running a mile in under 4 minutes. It had never been done. In fact, it was believed that if you ran the mile under 4 minutes, your heart would explode. That's what people believed. And in this video I watched this video as he came across the finish line in, what was the final thing? 3 minutes, 59 seconds, 59.4 seconds. So he shattered the world record. His heart did not break or explode, came across the finish line, and they called it the Bannister effect because he believed he could do it. He knew he could do it, but everyone else said no. And it's interesting, too. He was running the race with a competitor, and they both believed that they could do it. But as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, so is it Roger? Is that what I said his name was? Yes, Roger. I'm suddenly thinking Roger Bannister from What's Up, Doc? Is it Bannister? Oh my God, is it Bannister in that movie? Okay, tangent. So he's running with his friend, and his friend's name was John Landy, and he breaks the barrier. Guess what happens? 1 month later, his friend breaks the barrier and breaks his limit. He goes to 3 minutes, 58 seconds. Now he's broken the record. And it hadn't been broken in all of time and eternity up to that point. But we saw it could be. So the whole zeitgeist of consciousness changed because we believed. Now, it all came from him believing. And then race consciousness says, oh, that can be done. And the irony is, and it says 3 months after he broke it, the other guy, it went to 3 minutes, 57 seconds. And then within the next 5 years, teenagers around the world were running at 3.51 seconds. Right? And so what changed? And the question was, what makes the impossible possible? What changed? One word. Yell it out, Carol.
Belief.
Belief. That's it. Belief. If we need any proof, any more proof to show that our beliefs are running the show, here's the example. The Bannister effect. Today, the last person to break the record was in 1999. And now the record is 3 minutes, 43.13 seconds. That's where we are. But somehow along the line, after 1999, apparently the running world all believed that can't be broken. That's probably as far as we can go. So we haven't gone any further in 24 years, 25 years almost. Nobody's even gotten like a tenth of a second shorter. It's just stayed there. I think that's because we've all believed that's it. We've hit it. So when in your life, I want you to think about this for a second. When in your life have you felt your best? Just think for a second. When in your life have you felt your best, performed your best? Just think about some moment in your life. That's so funny. I'm thinking about my life, but I went right to your life. And I went right to that moment. Kevin was the standby in Annie, Get Your Gun. And most of us know that Bernadette Peters is the queen of musical theater, the pinnacle of what a diva is. And the night that I went to see the show with his parents, to see him play Sitting Bull, which is the part he was playing, we're sitting in the audience and they make an announcement that Tom Wopat would be out, and the role of Frank Butler would be played by Kevin Bailey. And I was like, first of all, Kevin's mother ruined the circulation in my hand. She was just like, the whole show she had my hand in a grip. And the show opened, and when the show opened, a little spotlight would hit Frank Butler, usually Tom Wopat, and you'd hear this voice just go, "There's no business like show business." And I was like, and there he was. Hair down to his shoulders, gorgeous as ever. And then he went through the whole show, and the scene where he was kissing Bernadette Peters, I actually felt something. I was like, I don't think Tom kisses her that long. And when I went backstage after the show, I walked by Bernadette's dressing room to get to his, and Bernadette goes, James. She goes, Kevin is such a good kisser. And I said, I'm aware of that. Wouldn't you say that was one of the pinnacles of your life, that moment? Yeah. We all have them, but as you said, Lisa, they're a little fleeting. They're like, they come and go. The universe. Is that what you said? Glimmers, thank you. I like that, glimmers. They come and go. But I think they come and go because our beliefs come and go. We believe something, then we're not sure, because the relative world teaches us to be unsure, teaches us to be cautious, teaches us you can't have it all. You can't have it all. But I think you can. It just depends on what does allness mean. Is it kissing Bernadette Peters in front of 2,000 people? Or is it getting that last leaf that's swirling in the pool? That's really where all of this comes from. So I want to do these three things that he talked about in flow. When you're in the flow, you have complete concentration on the task at hand. I'm sure when Craig got on that diving board, there wasn't a lot for him to think about, like his groceries that day or something. I'm sure it was just, I'm diving. It was the dive, that was it, right? And then he gets the bronze Olympic medal. The merger of action and awareness, being fully present in the action that you have chosen to do. Whatever it is, whatever that is, being fully present right here, right now, in this moment. And then the last thing, I love this, did the self and time vanish? How often have you had a project or something you're doing, whatever it is, that half hour cleaning the pool, I know it sounds silly, but that time just went. I went. There are songs that I've written, and it's 3 hours later, and I have a full song sitting in front of me on the piano, and I didn't even notice the sun had gone down. There are hours in New York City where I sat at the piano writing musicals, writing shows, and where time just, I'd be 3 and 4 in the morning, I'm still playing the piano until somebody banged on the ceiling. Because time goes away. That's the flow. And yet what we're being asked is, can you get into that flow? Can you get into that consciousness? Can you get into that higher level of consciousness and stay there, be aware that you're there, and be fully awake through the whole process? And I believe you can. So I want to go back to Science of Mind for a minute. Ernest Holmes. Ernest Holmes said, all the power of the universe is with you. Feel it, know it, and then act as though it were true. Back in the 1920s, Ernest Holmes got it, that you are God, I am God, that the entire universe exists within each one of us, that we are tapped into the greatest power we could ever be tapped into because we are that power. He got that, but he also got that the world was not ready to say, I am God. The world was not ready to understand this power. So what did he say? Feel it, know it, and then act as though it were true. He says it a lot in Science of Mind book. Act as though. Just act as though, and then by doing it, you will feel it. Well, I think we have been acting for a very long time. like almost 100 years now, we've been acting as though. I think it's time for us to move from acting as though to living as the flow. Doesn't that make sense? I've been acting as though for a very long time. I'm a very good actor. I can act it out like the best of them. But when I'm in the flow, I don't have to act. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to try to feel something. I am the feeling. I am the creativity. I am the whatever it is I'm doing. And it really is just being willing to take the adjustment. Joseph Murphy said, you can develop the right mental attitude when you realize that nothing external can upset you or hurt you without your mental consent. So my question to you today is, what have you been consenting to? What are you done consenting to? Pull this down here. There we go. What are you done consenting to? I'll tell you what I'm done consenting to. I'm done letting my mind run adrift on fear and worries and comparing myself to other things, in contemplating things that I don't want to experience. I'd like to be done with that. I am done with that. And if I'm done with that, as he's saying here, nothing external can upset you or hurt you. If I'm done with letting those things in there, there's a lot more room for being in the flow. There's a lot more space in my mind to create what is mine to create. And yes, Wednesday, I turned 70, and I had some real issues and interesting thoughts about turning 70. But I got to tell you, now, I am so freaking ready to be a man in his 70s defying everything that a 70-year-old or 70s-year-old person is supposed to be, or how I'm supposed to behave, or what I'm capable of accomplishing. Somebody said that to me. You know, you're so capable of, you're still capable of accomplishing things. I'm like, what, macrame? What are you suggesting? Yeah. So if my mind, and it is ready and prepared to dive in and to say, I am ready to live from the flow. And really that's just from the God is, I am. So, there we go. So I'm asking you to join me in this. There's a reason why all of a sudden there are 82 people taking my class on Monday night. That is the largest class I've ever taught as a full class. My 30-minute classes that I teach, like CPR and BODS and all, they can go into the hundreds. But that's because it's 30 days and you're in and out and it's quick and people's attention spans seem to like that. And I like that too. But a 10-week course, 10 weeks, not even 8, a 10-week course of a 2.5-hour class each week to really understand quantum physics, quantum mechanics, quantum metaphysics as it deals with science of mind, that's a commitment. A commitment I wasn't expecting 82 people to decide to take. And for it to grow as the first class ends, there's even more, like 7 more people have signed up since. Why? Because we're ready. We are ready as a culture to stop the acting and to start being, to really be this consciousness, this energy, this creativity. That's what we have the capability to do at any age, at any time. So you with me?
Yes.
Let me really hear you. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, let's do this. Namaste.